Miraculous Ladybug, Adrienette, Human Alternate Universe Fanfiction, Chapter 2. As much as Marinette doesn't want to admit it out loud, she does get to make a new friend from caroling. Well, he's a bit more than just a friend to her, but nonetheless, a friend. Adrien is very nice. He's also a dork and adorable in Marinette's eyes and has the softest hair, but no one else needs to know that. He stayed with her, Alia, Milan, Rose, and Julika for a couple of houses before retreating back to his own. He did shyly ask for her number, though, before closing the door with a shy grin. And Marinette went back to her sly grinning friends with a blush on her cheeks. Since then, they have texted. A lot, actually. She honestly feels like a teenager again because of the last time she'd been so periodically checking her phone for a text. A text from a guy, no less. It was in the middle of high school, and all she ever wanted was to go out on a date and have her first kiss. It only took her a couple of months and 2 horrible dates for young Marinette to realize that high school-aged boys are not as sweet as the movies make them out to be. But Adrien isn't some immature 17-year-old boy with little to no drive in life and annoying friends who push him to just get a girlfriend for the fun of it. He's a mature, smart adult with a beloved, steady job that just so happens to have let him keep his inner childlike sense of wonder. It's truly endearing to her. They text so often and talk about random things they see throughout the day and the different things they do for their job. Marinette honestly loves getting to know him. And her mind just screams to ask him more questions at the risk of annoying him because, well, she genuinely loves listening to him as a person. It's been barely a week and she's learned so much about him. What his favorite color is, what he majored in university, his favorite subjects back in high school, his past days in fencing, his hopes of having a pet hamster, that one terrible haircut experience he had, and so much more. No, I heard that movie was a disaster, Marinette laughs as she's on the phone with Adrien, stirring her dinner on the stovetop. It really is, he cries out, and Marinette just shakes her head. I just thought it'd be a little better, you know, Adrien says, trying to defend his choices, but failing miserably. That's on you that you have that DVD in your house now, she teases him, and he just grumbles at her. I just hope you don't think I'm gonna watch that movie with you, Marinette says, pointing to her camera with her sauce-covered spoon. Adrien looks sorely disappointed and only serves to make her laugh again. I mean it. I've seen enough cheesy movies with no plot consistency to last me a lifetime, so there's no way you could ever rope me into watching that, Marinette states. Okay, technically there is a way that he could get her to watch it with him, and that's if he just bats his eyes at her and says, pretty please? Marinette just knows she'll cave to puppy dog eyes, and Adrien seems to be the type of person to know exactly how to do that. Luckily, he doesn't know that trick works just yet. Adrien smirks and raises his brow in an amused way. Seen enough of them to last a lifetime, eh? Are you a secret Hallmark movie watcher? He asks with a laugh. Marinette scoffs and shakes her head vigorously. Hallmark movies are great. That's no secret. I watch them, so don't diss them, she says, narrowing her eyes at him. And 2, it's back in my high school days that I'd watch those online movies made from streaming platforms that were awful and terrible but had really attractive leads, she admits with a blush on her cheeks. So yeah, a bit of a connoisseur. Adrien continues to tease her in a lighthearted way, and Marinette decides that his laughter is cute enough to deal with the embarrassment. They talk for hours, and she's almost embarrassed to admit it. They started calling in the late afternoon, but it is currently an hour past her usual bedtime, and she is laying in bed, still talking to Adrien. Marinette is giddy all over, truly. This is the most high school thing that she's done since, well, high school itself. And despite the hours of talking and the literal hundreds of text messages, she isn't bored of talking to him. Honestly, there is a little voice in her head that swears she'll never get tired of talking to him or hearing his laugh. Goodness, is she being so mushy for someone she just met? I should probably head to sleep, Adrienne says. She can hear the regret in his voice, and she also feels deeply saddened by him calling it for the night. But she can also hear the immense sleep deprivation in his voice, and by the way he's been tripping up on his words for the past half hour, it's probably for the best for them to call it. Yeah, she laughs, getting snuggled deeper into her blankets herself. You should go do that. Adrienne laughs and nods, but doesn't hit the red button just yet. Instead, he lingers and shifts his eyes around. So, he says nervously. Marinette raises an eyebrow in interest, but also because she just has the faintest idea of what he wants to say. It's kind of late, but I'm a bit tired, but he takes a deep breath. I still wanted to ask you if you'd like to go out on a date with me. His face is bright red, and it contradicts with the blonde hair that's falling everywhere over his face without the product that's normally in it. Marinette's heart nearly explodes with joy because that little voice was right. He asked her out on a date. And he did it in the most flustered but endearing way possible. She's also thankful now because she's not the only one with red stained cheeks now. Marinette gives him a light laugh. Of course, I would love to go on a date with you. A giant smile breaks out onto his face, and he nearly squeezes out the good night before they both hesitate to hang up. No matter, they need their sleep now, and they can talk about it more tomorrow. And Marinette is just left with the best feeling ever to fall asleep to. She's anxiously awaiting Adrienne at the local skate rink. It's only a few minutes past 4:30, but alas, Marinette has always been a nervous person. She hasn't been stood up, right? He's been sounding just so excited for today, almost as much as she was. He could have just changed his mind and bailed, right? Marinette takes in a deep breath and tries to calm her racing heart. He's not even 15 minutes late and she's spiraling. She should give him a break, and even herself. Hi, I'm sorry I'm late. Her head whips towards the voice, and Marinette can't help the smile that appears on her face when she spots him. He's wearing a puffy winter coat and the same scarf he had thrown on when he joined her and her friends for caroling. It's still very clearly too big for him, and is wrapped multiple times around his neck in an adorable fashion. I hope I didn't leave you waiting for too long, he says with a shy smile. Marinette shakes her head. You're okay, she says. They walk into the rink together, both having to rent skates at the counter. Adrienne, as he claimed to be the correct gentlemanly thing to do, pays for her rental fee, even as Marinette insists that he doesn't have to. It's not the 1950s anymore, Marinette says, while she's lacing up her skates. You didn't have to, really. She smiles, because this is the first time the guy's making the consistent effort to put her first. She's an adult, she doesn't need to be taken care of, but it is really nice to be cared for. I know, Adrienne smiles, but my mother raised me to always treat the girls that I like with the best manners, and well, I was the one to ask you, he admits. Marinette's cheeks go red and she looks down and smiles at her toes. Thank you, she says. Again. Of course. When they get onto the ice, Marinette soon realizes two things. One, she's pretty out of skill when it comes to skating, despite the fact that she used to take lessons and was a pretty proficient skater as a kid. And two, Adrienne is somehow worse than her. He seems to have a horrid balance, and Marinette is caught between amusement for every time he falls down and flails while doing so, and actually feeling bad because it literally happens so often. I swear I'm not this clumsy on land, Adrienne mutters when Marinette has to help him up for the fourth time. She laughs a bit, and he wobbles despite holding onto the railings of the rink. This is land, Marinette giggles into her hands. It's just also ice. Technically, it's water, Adrienne points out. Marinette rolls her eyes at his statement, but she has to admit he is right to a degree. I'm just taking it that you don't skate much, Marinette teases him. Though Adrienne's cheeks are already pink from the frosty air, she swears she sees him go flush even more. It's okay, she says, quick to comfort him. I haven't skated since I was really young, too. How old were you the last time you skated? Adrienne asks. He's finally managed to stand up without shaking or nearly falling, and honestly, Marinette feels proud. I think I was 12 when I stopped. It was right before I moved towns, so yeah, 12, 13 sounds about right, she says. I loved it back then, but now it's a lot harder than I remember it being. Adrienne gives her a deadpan look as if to say, Oh, you think I don't already know that? It makes her giggle even more. Sorry, she says, still laughing. But really, I think if I tried to skate any faster than this, I would also join you on the ground, she admits. Well, at least you can get around the rink, Adrienne points out. Yeah, it's impressive, isn't it? She jokes, and Adrienne just pouts at her. They spend an hour and a half at the rink, just falling to the ground and laughing, and getting to know each other and building a certain sense of trust between them. Marinette doesn't even remember the last time she felt so comfortable with a person so quickly. She usually doesn't like doing things that she hasn't done in a long time. Marinette likes being able to do things relatively well in front of people, especially if that's a new person. But Adrienne having a fairly high fall chance? Yeah, it makes it feel a lot more comfortable. It's strange though, but really she feels like she could already be herself around him, including all of the quirks of her, like being extremely touchy and babbling on and on with barely a breath in between her words. Most of the time, Marinette tries to curb these habits because, well, they can be a bit much for new people. But with Adrienne, he doesn't seem to be bothered by them at all. And since she came to me in such a panic, I assumed that I was the only one helping out. And oh boy, was I wrong. There were so many ingredients, the piles were huge, Marinette says, waving her arms around animatedly. Adrienne just chuckles at her story and takes another sip of his hot cocoa. I mean, the way you're describing it makes it sound like no one else was there to bring stuff, so I mean, I don't blame you, Adrienne says. Right? Honestly, Marinette is having the time of her life, just sitting here, exchanging stories with Adrienne. It is so much fun. She feels like he genuinely wants to get to know her, and she knows that she wants to genuinely get to know him. Adrienne finds her stories funny and entertaining, and gosh, it's just making her like him even more, which is, well, it may or may not be a good thing, considering how hard she is already falling for him. Is your hot chocolate cold now? Because mine is, Adrienne asks idly. She nods and he just sighs. Cold hot chocolate shouldn't be allowed to exist. I mean, cold shouldn't be allowed to be in front of hot. It just doesn't make any sense. Marinette has to agree with him because, yeah, cold shouldn't be put in front of hot. But it had gone cold because they'd been sitting here for so long just talking and laughing. And Marinette privately thinks that if she had to drink cold hot chocolate, that should technically be illegal in the universe just for this to happen, it's well worth it.